Howdy, howdy. We are live on a Friday night with a brand new episode of the Tex-Trek podcast with a brand new Back-Trekking Retrospective in preparation of the return of Strange New Worlds. We are taking a look at some classic episodes that we think will be relevant to this season, starting with What Are Little Girls Made Of? Taylor and I are joined by Rachel
Hi.
tonight. So it looks like we already have some folks in the audience. Let's get this show started. I'm Fathery.
I'm Miss
I'm
Taylor.
Rachel.
Oh
Sorry.
no. I knew that was going to happen. Let's try again.
Clockwise. Take two. I'm Fathery.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Miss Taylor.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 334th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek, old and new. And tonight, we are going to be focused on Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 9, What Are Little Girls Made Of? Written by Robert Bloch and directed by James Goldstone. And I'm looking forward to talking about this episode because this is the Roger Korby episode of Star Trek, the original series. We know he's coming back to Star Trek with Strange New Worlds Season 3 about to drop in a few weeks. So we're going to do some backtracking retrospectives on some relevant episodes, starting with this one. And Taylor and I are happy to talk about this story with Rachel. Before we get started on that, just a bit of a quick housekeeping. First and foremost, I need to give a big thank you and shout out to the wonderful people in the Tex-Trek Patreon who keep the Starship Texas flying and keep the weekly show going. So thank you so very much. Starfleet Sohel, Cake is Eternal, Crazy Dutchie, Joanne Robertson, John Daw, Geek Filter, Quark Spar, Stephanie Durantes, Matthew Averett, Braxton, Chuck A., Joel Vallis, Benjinium, Arthur Lamoureux, our associate producer Chris Garris, Dave Farabee, Dave A. Gregory, and our anonymous supporters. And just a reminder, we do like to have monthly Patreon watch parties. And our next one is scheduled for next Saturday in about a week, Saturday, June 21st. But we are going to be hanging out watching, it's going to be a double feature actually. We're going to do the Voyager episode, Repression. And that's that season 7 episode where they have some weird Bajoran Manchurian candidate kind of I don't know, Maquis. It's weird. It's hard to describe, but that's we're watching that Repression as well as the animated series episode Mud's Passion, which is a Harry Mudd episode, but in the animated series. And just a reminder to folks, you can join the Patreon as little as $2 a month, and that will get you into those monthly watch parties. It's a great group that shows up for those. But if you can afford to be more generous, there are some additional perks as well. Come in on the bridge crew level, and we will throw additional watch parties for your birthday. So any bridge crew or higher patrons out there, if you have a July birthday and would like to schedule a watch party, let me know, and I will get that posted. But what news do we have? Strange New Worlds is yeah, there is some big news on Strange New Worlds this week.
I thought you were like, what news?
Yeah, so we it's a mixed bag. We knew we were getting the season 3 of Strange New Worlds that's about to premiere on Paramount Plus in a few weeks. In fact, it's premiering the world premiere will be at that festival in New York this weekend. But it'll be on Paramount Plus starting July 17th, and We already knew that. We already knew that we're getting a season 4. They're currently shooting in Canada right now. But we got the mixed news. We will get a season 5. But the downside of that is that it will be the final season, not a shocker. It's also only going to be 6 episodes, meaning Strange New Worlds will finish with a 46 episode run.
I wasn't surprised. I didn't want season 5 to be the last, but I wasn't surprised because that seems to be the
That's the new 7. Yeah.
Yeah, Star Trek shows aren't allowed to have more than 5 seasons right now, apparently. As much as people are like, hey, we'd love longer seasons, to be like, but what if we did shorter? I was like, come on. Like, it's the exact opposite of what we asked.
Yeah. I'm guessing that was just like a budget thing. In order to afford a 5th season, it had to be truncated. But that's good that they are going to be able to end the show on their own terms, though.
Yes.
It might not be best case scenario, but it's a pretty good scenario. They're going to have we already have like an entire season 3 that we haven't seen yet, an entire season 4 that we haven't seen yet, and then they're getting to create 6 episodes, knowing they will be the final 6 episodes. So I'm looking forward to see what they do.
I know. I am glad that they're getting they know this is the final season. Nothing is worse than shows that end on like weird cliffhangers that you're like, guess we'll just never know.
And that's still going to give us a lot of Star Trek from now. Like, we're going to have Star Trek from now until 2027, just between Academy and Strange New Worlds. I mean, we're getting at least 2 seasons of Academy, perhaps more. So I feel like Academy, that needs to be a 4-season show, right? To follow like someone going through the Academy. Like, every season's a different school year and they do 4 years and then graduate. I would love that to be like a 4-season show.
That was the 5th season. It's like, and here are new people. Like, it'd be like when it occurred to them on Glee, like, oh no, our characters have to graduate. We need more teenagers.
Yeah. And that seems like if Lower Decks was to continue, that would have been the idea that like, Mariner and Boimler, they're being promoted, but here comes some new Lower Deckers. So, yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll get that with Academy. Maybe we'll go beyond 4 seasons and we'll see new students come in. But we'll probably learn a lot about Academy soon, though. This year, as soon as they're done, like with like the big promotion for Strange New Worlds and getting the season 3 going, I think we're gonna start getting a lot of Academy news in the second half of this year. But just a reminder, folks, we are gearing up for that Strange New World season 3. So the next few weeks, we're going to do a lot of Back-Trekking retrospectives. A lot of them are going to be TOS because that's the show that ties into Strange New Worlds the most. But at some point in the future, we're going to do some like Academy episodes. I think revisiting things like the Wesley episode, The First Duty. Some of the we know that Bob Picardo is going to be a series regular, so I think we can do the Voyager Doctors like greatest hits. I think it'd be fun to do some retrospectives on those. So, if anyone has any suggestions for that,
and I was trying to think of any episode where I was like, there's not that many episodes where they hang out at the Academy. Yeah,
I know as much as they talk about it, we really don't see it that often.
I guess you kind of see it. I cannot think of the name of this episode, but the one with species random set of numbers
8472.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking that when you kind of have like Chakotay go back to the Academy a little bit and flirt with a 8472.
Yeah,
like goes on a date with one and goes back to her apartment. It gets interesting. Maybe that would be a fun one to return to. But in the meantime, not much else on the Star Trek news. So this is kind of funny, but Miss Taylor, as someone new to Star Trek, you just got into it like 18 months ago. Like all these shows are ending, like when you started watching Star Trek with me, like Prodigy and Lower Decks and Discovery were all still like coming out, and now like they've all have seemingly concluded, and now like Strange New Worlds it's not over yet, but like the writing's on the wall. So
I love the idea that you were like, come join me. There were a bunch of new stuff coming out right now that they all just start being like, never mind.
Yeah, I think it was actually kind of funny because I didn't even think about them like coming out last year. Like I wasn't watching them as they were coming out. So for me, like by the time we got to each of them, like they were already finished shows. So I just watched them as if they were finished shows, So
Yeah.
It was kind of convenient. The only one that you've ever had to wait on is Strange New Worlds.
yeah.
Everything else we just binged through.
I was like, it's a modern Star Trek experience waiting at Strange New Worlds.
Yeah. I've caught up.
But this in this 2-year season 2, season 3 gap of wondering what's going to happen in the Gorn cliffhanger, but enough about Strange New World. Let's focus on TOS. We're not ready for the new young sexy Roger Korby. We're going to talk about the old weird professorial Roger Korby from this episode. So I'm just gonna quickly recap what are little girls made of by reading the synopsis I snagged off of Memory Alpha. I like this one though. Just one sentence. Nurse Chapel's long-lost fiance is found, along with his androids. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but turns out
Wait.
It's a little misleading. He's not found, but his android duplicate is found, who wanted to create an android revolution and replace everyone with android copies. But Kirk and Chapel stop him.
Mm-hmm. It is very he confuses me in this episode. Although I think that might be he's not sane, despite what Chapel says about him.
Well, I want to ask you your thoughts on it, Rachel. I want to give the first opening statement on this one, just because I'm actually a big fan of this episode. I love the original series. I remember growing up thinking Ruck the android was so scary. I thought that I still love it now, especially when we can watch it in HD, but the beautiful cave set with I know it looks fake as hell, but it's gorgeous with that beautiful TOS purple lighting, and I actually think that Majel Barrett, who's complained a lot about playing the character Chapel and always thought she was a poorly written character, but she gives a really good performance in this episode. This is her best work as Chapel. I've mentioned this a lot, but I can understand her feeling kind of robbed if she was allowed to play number 1, originally intended in the cage, and be this lady first officer on the Enterprise who's the right hand woman of the captain. That would have been pretty revolutionary to see in a big pop culture sci-fi show. And instead she got relegated to Dr. McCoy's nurse, who just hands them hypo sprays and doesn't get much development. So I can understand her frustration. But in this episode, just the second Chapel appearance, she gets kind of a meaty role, and she does some good work in this. So I kind of think of this as before we had Strange New Worlds, this is kind of the best Chapel depiction. I like what they do with her in the animated series too, though. But for the most part, I think of this like the really good Chapel episodes, and I think it's really cool that Strange New Worlds is revisiting it. And again, I think Ruck is just really cool. But Rachel, what about you? Give us your opening statement on this episode.
I do really like this episode. But it's I think it's the sci-fi themes of it. It's I want to analyze the android Roger Korby to be such a hypocrite. And I don't think that's a bad thing in the episode. I think he's supposed to be like that. But it is it's really interesting. It's one that's really fun to rewatch because I notice more things knowing for sure. I would say I wasn't necessarily surprised the first time I watched this, and it was he was an android the whole time, and I'm I had kind of figured that out by that point. But it is it is an interesting episode to rewatch because I feel once you know what's what, you notice different things.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun for me to put myself in the mentality of the people watching it for the first time on NBC in the 60s when they hadn't seen all the tropes, so a lot of this would have felt newer.
Me getting, I was oh, he's an android, is because I watch a lot of sci-fi.
Right.
And I exist in a world where this, that trope is really prevalent. That is and it was not him the whole time. But it was, it was the 60s. They weren't as familiar.
Right. The tropes were still being built.
Yeah. Taylor, that's something that you and I talk about a lot when we're watching stuff. But why don't you give us your opening statement on what are little girls made of?
Yeah, I'm not a super big fan of this episode. I think there's a lot in it that I don't like, and a lot of it being, how Chapel is treated, and the Korby stuff is pretty cringy, and I don't know. I also didn't feel it was too big of a mystery, especially after you find out that Brown is an android, and then Andrea is an android, and then Brock is an android, it's like, okay, so like everybody is going to be an android. Like it's like every single one is like revealed, and it just doesn't feel like a surprise by the fourth time. Like maybe the first and second time, but yeah. And then I really struggle with the title of this episode, like a lot, because for the life of me, every time we were talking about this episode, and I'd only seen it all once, I kept thinking it was the Miri episode, because I was like, oh, little girls, that's the ones with little kids. And then, you know, we're doing it on this, and I'm like, oh, wait a second. Why the hell is this one called What Are Little Girls Made Of? There's no little girls in this.
Yeah, it doesn't help that Miri and this are like right next to each
Right
other.
after. Yeah. But yeah, I know some people have, you know, referred to women as little girls. It's a very like infantilizing is what someone said yesterday in the stream.
It's like infantilizing. I assume what they were going for was like the saying is what are little girls made of, the sugar spice, everything nice.
The Powerpuff Girls intro thing,
and then maybe they're saying, what are people made of? And I was like, yeah, but there are more men in this episode.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was the I think the naming, I assume that came from like Robert Bloch, who was he was known for being more of a horror writer. You know, he also writes the episode Cat's Paw, which is kind of funny, but you know, it was meant to be spooky.
Yeah.
And Wolf in the Fold, which was kind of a ghost story and dealt with like murder and stuff. So like he's very much like kind of that H.P. Lovecraft style of like horror writing, which is also deeply problematic.
I feel like I would have liked this title. I think I would have liked this title more if like Andrea ended up being like the big bad. Like, you know, if she ended up being like the scariest or like whatever, like the last one revealed or something like that. I think maybe.
I feel like if she was I feel like I might be revealing like if she was more like Dolores on Westworld.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and see, I haven't seen Westworld, but I can't because David Zaslav erased it from existence. So.
I forgot about that. That's insane.
But I've seen like the old 70s movie, so I get like the premise. But yeah, I think like Robert Bloch was like, oh, it's like this creepy story of like this weird mad scientist in a cave who's building people. He builds this girl, and you know, calling this 22, 24-year-old woman, Andrea, a girl, which would I guess would have been the norm. Not to excuse it, but I guess that was like the title.
Yeah. I think if they had I would say it's little girls that if he had just said they're girls, and that was like, it's just for all people, like all like women and girls, they're just called them all girls, but little girls has a pretty specific connotation.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into our episode breakdown. We'll just go through the whole story beat by beat, starting with the opening scene on the Enterprise when they arrive at this planet XO3. They're on a mission to resupply Korby and his archaeological medicine expedition. Right? They're on this planet XO3 studying something that they found there. So we're gonna get that archaeological medicine stuff in Strange New World season 3. That's why Chapel was going on to this internship, or no, not an internship, a fellowship with Korby, who we learn here he's really revered and respected. Kirk really looks up to him and wants to meet him. So I guess Paul Wesley is not going to have any screen time with Korby in season 3, but. It's also funny, the shot when you see them put Corby's face on the computer screen and Spock is looking at that. You know, now that we've seen the trailer for Strange New World season 3, you know, like we can retcon like, oh, is Spock thinking like, oh, there's that son of the bitch that I had to hit in the face that one time.
It's also, I think it's so funny. This looks like a passport photo.
Yeah. It's like a Starfleet identification photo.
Yeah, it's like they did like Chapel didn't have like a nice photo of him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's wearing one of the Starfleet uniforms they used in The Cage and Where No Man Has Gone Before, like the older Starfleet uniforms. But we learned that like, oh, this is Chapel's fiance. She hasn't seen him in 5 years. She is serving on a starship to try to find him, and that's something that they kind of set up in Strange New World season 1. They say that she's not really Starfleet, but she's on loan from, was it like Moorhead University or some school. So I think at some point in season 3 of Strange New Worlds, we're going to have Korby not only get engaged with Chapel, but also be like, oh, but I have to go on this 5-year mission, and I'm not going to see you. And then she's going to be like, oh, well, I guess I'll permanently join Starfleet so that I can be on the resupply mission to see you at some point.
Because it's like so weird. And then I was like, I guess was something like this more normal in the time when like ships and stuff, like with like in like the real world, when it was like, oh, people are gonna go off on a boat somewhere, and we hope they come back. We'll see.
Right.
Yeah,
I think it was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to kind of change the subject and go back to like when Spock is talking about Korby, and Kirk basically says like, "Oh yeah, that's basic Starfleet material. I've always wanted to meet him." And I think that is so funny because he's such a nerd in that scene. Like he's really just like excited and nerding out about it. And I also wanted to bring up that when Spock has Corby's picture up, we see Chapel like turn as soon as Spock, like she's like in the background, and I think that's really good acting by Majel. Like you can barely even see her; she's like super blurred out in the background. We can see her like react to like as soon as Spock starts talking about Korby. So I thought that was really good acting.
And then when they get the communication from Korby, or who I guess we'll eventually learn is like, well, it's actually like the android duplicate. Spoilers. But when we get that message from him, and they're asking like, are you sure that was him? You know, Nurse Chapel, are you sure that was Dr. Korby? And she says that line to Spock, have you ever been engaged, Mr. Spock? Which, after seeing Strange New Worlds, though, like we can read a lot of context, and it still works, but in a very different way than originally intended.
Have you ever been engaged? Wait, didn't I help break up one of those for you once?
Yeah, so it's like, wow, it's like kind of dicey, but
it's a little mean.
Yeah. So I'm curious how they're going to play with that in Strange New Worlds season 3. As much as those guys in Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonzo Meyer, they like to update the visuals of the show and stuff like that, but like they like these little like character details they seem to like really want to make line up with the original series. At least sometimes they do. Like with the Chapel stuff, like they seem to have like some type of plan. So I'm curious to see what it'll be like when it's all said and done in these remaining 26 episodes. I'm looking forward to the day when I can just binge the first 2 seasons of Disco, then all 5 seasons of Strange New Worlds, then go straight into TOS and TAS. I'll get like the full Spock, Chapel, Kirk saga.
Yeah.
One day we'll understand what's going on with these two.
And there's another like interesting thing that happens when they get the news that Korby's on the planet, and he's acting kind of weird though. Like he's like Captain, you got to get down here. I really have to show this to you. Just come see it for yourself. But it's kind of, I think, performative, but also progressive. They have like the mixed race couple standing on the bridge. You have like a white man and a black woman that they're presented as like kind of like this happy, smiling couple, like rejoicing of like, oh look, Christine is gonna go, be reunited with her love. So I understand like in the 60s that would have been like kind of like, oh cool, look how cool and progressive we are. But the other thing that I like to point out is when Kirk and Chapel are on their way to the transporter room to beam down. There's like this little friendly kiss between Chapel and Uhura, which is a really like sweet, friendly looking moment.
Really cute.
Technically an interracial kiss on Star Trek before Plato's Stepchildren. So there's kind of the myth that when Kirk kisses Uhura, it's the first televised interracial kiss, which it's not the first. It was one of the early ones, but it's technically not even the first one in Star Trek.
Yeah.
But we get beamed down to the cave, and I don't know. I kind of think of this as one of the key like early episodes in setting the Star Trek cave trope that Lower Decks recently had a lot of fun with. It's not the original cave episode because I guess the cage, like the Telosians live in a big cave, but I guess this was the second. This was the first one to make it into like a recurring trope. The other trope that this episode really helps cement foundationally is the dying red shirts. I
know. It's like he was like, set 2 security guards down. I was like, Kirk, don't. Like, make it out of this.
Yeah, you beam down to XO3, but you don't beam back up.
Yeah.
Not the first Starfleet officers to die on Star Trek, but the first ones in red shirts. So and I think the fact that it was 2 of them back to back.
It really cemented that trope.
because they're as they're walking around in the caves, they discover this very dramatic, mysterious figure, like almost like it's funny to think is he's like intentionally like standing there in the shadows to look cool behind that light, but Dr. Korby's assistant, Dr. Brown.
It's also like a little rude when you know you're not who they're expecting.
Like, yeah. I guess it's good drama for TV, but yeah, Dr. Brown. Now, do y'all think we'll get a Dr. Brown in Strange New Worlds? Maybe as like Korby's TA or something, if he's like a professor.
That'll be interesting. Although I find it because this actor looks older than Korby to me for him to be like the assistant.
Yeah. Yeah, like the guy who plays Korby in this, he's like in his 50s. I looked up the guy who plays him in Strange New World, and he's in his 30s. So it's gonna be a rough 5 years in these caves to age him. But at least it has an excuse.
You would think if he's not getting much sun, he would look younger.
Yeah, that might be good for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as they meet Brown, the two security officers, Matthews and Rayburn, both killed. And we get our first look at Ruck, or as I like to call him, Robo-Lurch, Lurch from the Addams Family. But yeah, he pushes Matthews off the cliff into a bottomless pit, and then kills Matthew after Matthew checks in with Kirk. So Kirk doesn't know that they're dead, but I don't know if you have anything else on the arrival in the cave before we meet Korby and Andrea. Is it Andrea or Andrea? I forget how they say it. It's kind of weird.
I think they say
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think they decide. I think Korby says Andrea.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Because he says it the most, so that's what's popping in my head. I do like knowing after what we know, the detail that like it takes Brown a second to figure out who Christine is.
Right. When she's like, Brownie, don't you recognize me? And he's kind of like weird and awkward for a second. It's like he's waiting for like the programming to load.
Yeah, it's like he's like computing.
Androids.
Oh, this must be Christine.
Yeah, definitely has more like little details like that when you're on repeat viewing.
Yeah.
This is where I think it's there's some it starts getting real weird. But when Chapel sees Andrea and is like, Roger, what were you doing in this cave with this woman dressed like this?
Yeah, and it's also, how long have you been here? How old is she?
Right. And also, like, how come the men get to wear an undershirt and Andrea doesn't?
And her outfit is a great example of the Bill Tice costuming theory we talk about in Star Trek a lot, which is the idea was that if the costuming looked like it was about to fall off of the actor and expose some naughty bits, then the audience will have their eyes glued to the screen and will keep watching the show. That was the idea. So
I love that the audience would be dumb enough to be like, it's gonna fall off. They wouldn't have edited around that.
Well, I think it was like a subconscious thing. But Bill Tice, our original Star Trek costume designer, who also worked on season 1 of TNG. In addition to having this half-naked young woman in the cave, also Kirk's not allowed to communicate back to the ship.
To be fair, we're showing her half naked. Like, Christine's dress is so short. Like, then also the woman's uniform is also so short that she's also like basically wearing a shirt and nothing else.
Right.
And there's I guess like a little bit of act. It's kind of weird to me that you would think like these androids would be like really strong, like we see how strong Ruck is, but Kirk can just kind of like grab Andrea and use her as a hostage temporarily before Ruck comes in and roughs him up.
I'm guessing Brown is at least based on like the real Brownie.
Yeah.
I genuinely no idea where Andrea came from.
And that's interesting. They could go either way with that. It could have been like a real person that Korby brought with him into these caves, or it could just be like a creation he made, I guess.
I would assume no, because Christine doesn't know her.
Right.
But I feel like yes, because the way they make the androids requires like a person to spin
Yeah.
in the thing to make a copy. So I feel like, yeah, there had to have been like a real life Andrea at some point,
Mhm.
So was the real
I
Korby
guess.
like a just a jerk with like his like side mistress that he brought down into these caves and told his fiance like, okay, honey, I'll see you in 5 years. We can get married. And then
I
ended up
did.
making an android out of her.
Yeah, Jill said that Andrea might be an ancient one. I legitimately, I don't know. I don't think they ever make it clear where she comes from. Whereas like Ruck definitely is an ancient one.
Yeah. Yeah, they never actually say her
Yeah.
origin other than just Korby created her and I guess we don't get the android reveal until like after we have a little bit of phaser fighting and expose Brown's robotic innards and Ruck has to come in to restrain Kirk, but then we get the Korby kind of does like this like demonstration about like Andrea, how like she's like so perfect, how like she's so lifelike, and it's he has like his hands kind of all over her when he's like demonstrating, and then he's like, oh, like go kiss Kirk, and it's like, oh, like she gives Kirk a pretty like sexy romantic kiss, and it's like Chapel's just watching all of this like Roger, what the hell were you doing with this thing?
Like,
Yeah.
at some point, like, which maybe she calls her a geisha at some point, which is
Right.
like not exactly accurate to what geishas actually are in the like, especially in the 20th century. But I was like, ooh, like she obviously is not a fan of this.
Yeah, in the 60s, I guess that would have been like kind of like a fancy
Yeah.
exotic word instead of using
Yeah.
like harlot or something like
Well,
that.
it's
But
also the Westerners had the wrong idea of what geisha were because
yes,
during the World War II, there were women that weren't actual geishas, but they didn't like. They were like, that woman's wearing a kimono. That must be a geisha. That, like were like actual like prostitutes, and so they're like, that's what geisha are. Like actually, no. Like there's something very specific.
but there's even that line when Korby is like, "Oh, Christine, I couldn't love an android," and then
Yeah.
but she's like, "Did you? But did you?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and I think like there's no doubt he was doing some weird stuff with this
Yeah.
robot.
Oh, definitely. Like it's just because this was like in the 60s, they couldn't say.
And she has that line when he's like, "Oh, like she's like so lifelike, like a real woman," and
Yeah.
then she has like kind of like that sarcastic line, like, "How convenient."
Yeah.
But
Although
she basically,
I was like,
like-
I'm unclear now that we don't, because he's like, I don't know if the real Roger Korby did anything with her because we never meet him.
right. So I think with Strange New Worlds, they have two options. They can either
Yeah.
make like the real flesh and blood Korby. They can either make him like a like a pretty stand up guy,
Yeah.
or they can make him be like, okay, this is a guy who would like go insane and try to take over the galaxy and replace everyone with robots. They can go either way. Like his bad guyness could be something that was always there, or it could be something that's kind of came out in his robot copy.
Yeah.
Because even his robot copy, like by the end of the episode, shows a little bit of redemption. So he's at least like the android version is kind of like a yin yang type. He has like some good and some bad both.
It's like, how tragic do we want his end to be by like how we portray him?
It's a pretty realistic slap that Andrea gives Kirk too, and she's like, "Kiss him, now strike him." So it looks like Shatner really got slapped hard by her. But we can move on to the android Kirk, the creation of the android.
It's also whatever body I cannot tell what that body is made out of, the green thing, but it looks so light when he's just like throwing it on there.
Taylor and I were talking about that. So like the way that they make Kirk is they have like the spinning turntable thing, and you put like the real person that you're going to duplicate. You strip them nude, you strap them down to a machine, and you put them on one side of the turntable, and then on the other side you put like this clay dummy, this like clay mannequin, this like clay body, and then you spin the thing around, and the way this technology on XO3 works is it builds a android duplicate. But Taylor and I were talking about like what did they make that prop out of that Ruck kind of comically, as Rachel points out, like just throws onto that table. What was that made out of?
I rewatched it today. I was like trying to figure out like what is that?
I think it's something rubbery or silicone or something. It's kind of bouncy. So
It almost looked like styrofoam to me, but I honestly
Yeah.
don't know how accessible styrofoam would have been in the 60s.
It honestly was probably like a mannequin that they like spray foamed over or put
Oh,
plaster over
probably.
or something like that. Yeah. It's like missing its legs, which I think is funny because later Korby says he was missing his legs whenever he transferred to an android.
Yeah.
And like this golem dummy thing like doesn't have legs. And I'm like, oh, I was like the first time we watched it, I was like, is he gonna not have legs on the android? Like when he's done, I don't know.
Taylor, you just called it a golem. That's something like we've been talking about off mic. Is that this is so similar to what Soong does to Picard in Star
Yeah.
Trek Picard. So it's
I
I like to.
guess the main difference I realized is like, oh, they did make sure like Picard isn't just gonna live forever.
Right, and they made sure that he still had like he was still human basically, like his copy. It still had like all of his emotions and everything. It
Yeah.
wasn't. They imply that these androids, they're all a bit, even the more human-like ones like Korby, they're still like a bit soulless. Like, so I like to headcanon that the Soongs studied the android technology of XO3. I know like David Mack used that in a Star Trek novel. He had like, Soong like studied the XO3 androids. He studied the androids from the episode I Mud. And he kind of tied it all together. But after seeing Picard, that makes even more sense that like
Totally.
Arnold Minigo Soong was privy to what Korby was doing here. But it's kind of a neat effect. It's kind of a cool visual of like the special effects you were able to do in the '60s. But just
Yeah.
if you spin it around fast enough, the audience won't be able to tell that one dude is Shatner and one dude is a body double. So, and then you have the camera stop and you just show the close up of both of their faces, and you just have Shatner be both of them. So it's an effective effect. Not at all realistic. I don't think you could actually build an android like this, but it's cool visuals.
No, what are you talking about? Totally.
It's believable.
Yeah.
I also wanted to bring up before this, Ruck was imitating all their voices and stuff, and he was like communicating to the Enterprise. And I like that Spock noticed immediately that something is off. He says, like, Captain, is everything okay? And I think that's actually really good because it parallels in the next scene after the spinning android of Kirk is created. And or it's somewhere in there, but Chapel says she can't decide, or she doesn't know which one is android and which one is human. And I'm like, Spock would know. He would know immediately which one is Kirk.
I assume.
I love that the choice he made to like make weird like different faces, like he's kind of having to think about the other voices. Like he does, like he makes kind of odd faces when he's imitating the different voices.
And I like the way that Shatner plays the Kirk voice coming out of Ruck. It does sound like a slightly out of character. That like Ruck is not as good of an imitator as the Kirk android is. And we see later like Ruck's programming is starting to decay or whatever. He's an unstable android.
We watched Spy Kids last week, and so when his voice imitating was coming on, I was like, oh, he's not as good as Junie from Spy Kids. Like, he had a better imitation going on, but it was so fun.
But yeah, we get like that dinner scene where Chapel sits down with the android Kirk and just assumes that it's the normal Kirk and just starts casually talking to him. Kirk is like asking her about, if it came down to it, would you be on my side or Korby's side and stuff like that? And she's like, oh, don't ask me to make that choice. But then we get the reveal that it's not even Kirk.
Yeah, that was a test. Korby was testing her allegiance.
Of course it was.
Yeah, like it was so obvious and so I don't know, like it's just like one more red flag to add to her list, Like I think that's interesting because there's I had some thinking like I'll get back to it. Sorry. I'll think about it some more.
There's one thing about this scene which I find odd, which is that she claims that she's like, oh, Roger's completely sane. He's acting completely differently, but he's completely sane. And I was like, someone doing a complete personality change is never an indication of sanity. Like that's an indicate like if someone's personality change, people usually like, oh, we should see something's wrong with their brain. Like that I thought it was really interesting. She keeps insisting he's sane, and I was like, he's clearly not. I don't like I was like, you might
You're-
be delusional on that front.
Steven, you're muted.
Sorry, but she doesn't want to like rain on her parade.
Yeah.
Like she wants to be like, oh my god, I've been looking forward to this day for 5 years. You know, like she doesn't
Yeah.
want to accept
Mhm.
the reality that Korby's not okay. They also do a good job with the special effects when real Kirk sits down at the table next to fake Kirk. They do that split camera technique.
Totally. I was like, I can't. Whereas a lot of times when I'm watching a TV show that uses this effect, you can tell where the seam is at this
Mhm.
time, and I cannot tell here.
And the way that the two Kirks, you know, talk to each other and react to each other, it was really it was directed and acted pretty well. It just feels like two dudes side by side. But they have like that fun rivalry, that kind of Kirk and Kirk rivalry. But you know, like eating might be a pleasure, but I'll never starve, and you know that kind of stuff.
I know we talked about this when we were watching the episode. The food, I love that they also have the weird food from the Enterprise.
Yeah, it's that Play-Doh looking food.
Yeah.
I guess because they are resupplied by Starfleet ships, so they get the Play-Doh looking food, which I guess was actually cubed fruit, but it sure looks like Play-Doh most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always assumed they were just weird blocks they were putting on actors' plates.
And they do that fun Star Trek thing when Korby starts talking about like his master plan to replace everyone with androids. They do that Star Trek thing where you start naming real historical people, and then you just start saying like some made up names. But when he says programming, different word, but the same old promise made by Genghis Khan, Julius Caesar, Hitler, Ferris, Maltuvus. You start like throw in the made up names at the end. I always love it when they do that. TOS did that a lot.
And you'd be like, what were those people up to? Don't worry
Yeah.
about it. You'll never know.
There, I think the novels have actually, they were augments or World War III or something like that. But I'm sure like the novels have fleshed that all out.
It's I was like, if this was Star Trek made now, they would definitely have thrown Khan in there.
Oh yeah, they love to mention Khan. Cake is Eternal is asking where do they get the furniture for their living room area, where you know these dining room tables and stuff, and they're kind of like living area. But this was all I guess supplied by the last ship that came by. I guess,
years
like
ago.
5 years earlier.
Please use a coaster. We cannot afford to like get a ring on here.
Yeah, who knows when the next ship is gonna come by. Well, let's move on to the real Kirk's escape attempt and the fake Kirk beaming up to the Enterprise. The real Kirk is able to untie himself from the chair at the dining room table and make a run for it. And Korby sends Ruck after him. And this is interesting. Kirk did a cool thing earlier when he got Korby to tell Chapel, or when he got Korby to tell Ruck. When he got Korby to tell Ruck to not only never harm Christine, but also follow her orders. But he seems to have some selective listening when it comes to Chapel, because she's like, Ruck, don't harm him, leave him alone, and Ruck is still pursuing Kirk. And this is the perhaps these days the most iconic part of this episode, most memorable part, the part that's most likely to get talked about. But Kirk rips the stalactite off of the cave roof to attack Ruck with, which is undeniably shaped like a huge styrofoam penis.
There's no way no one looked that there wasn't at least one person who looked at that and went, should we change the shape of that?
Maybe there was like more to it, and they were like, oh wait, that doesn't look stalactite enough. Like cut part of it off or make it more cylindrical or something. And then then they ended up with this. They're like, oh shit, well camera's like, rolling in an hour. I guess we're shooting with this prop.
It's like even like it's not chest long. It is the shape. Like it's so weird.
But always a conversation starter, I guess, when
Mhm.
you're watching this episode with people. But yeah, I call it the cock rock, which I guess is not really that clever, but it's an accurate
It's
description.
accurate.
But it's no match for Ruck. Ruck
No.
gets hit by it and is unfazed, and actually tussling with Kirk ends up pushing him off of a cliff, and then we get like the cut to commercial, and you come back from the commercial, and Ruck just like lifts Kirk up. It's like, oh, no danger at all, actually.
I like this look, Kirk, and he's like, "Oh, is he not going to push me off?" Like,
Yeah,
Taylor,
he was
what
like,
was-
he was like, I was about to get Mufasa, and then he. I mean,
Taylor, what was your original reaction to seeing Kirk's stalactite?
I was pretty just like, oh, okay, that's very phallic.
yeah.
I mean, I wasn't shocked. I thought it was goofy, but it didn't like bother me. I don't
I
know.
mean, it was one of the.
I don't
this-
know
this
that-
is
I
one
don't
of the
think it ever
earlier
bothered-
Star Trek episodes. So
I don't think
know
it bothered me, but I remember seeing it and being like, "What? Like, what? How?"
Yeah,
Like,
it is
it
hilarious.
baffled me more than it bothered me. If that
Yeah,
makes
I am surprised that it was allowed.
sense. Yeah.
But I don't know, like, this is such like an early Star Trek episode, so I don't know if you would have been like, wow, this show is really weird. But just beyond the cock rock, I think like the rest of the cave, you know, it is like the beautiful lighting. I love those TOS colors. I love a colorful, bright Star Trek future. So even when you're in a cave, and
You're
I don't
gonna
know,
have
like,
mood lighting.
and Ruck this is like the I guess he's probably a weird character by today's standards, but I don't know, like he was always such like an intimidating force, just like that voice, that presence, the height, the makeup they put on his face.
I found it
Wardrobe's a little
interesting
weird,
because
but-
like Lurch doesn't really speak, so it was like it should be like, "Oh, he had a cool voice too."
Yeah, he just said like on the Addams Family, he'd just be like, "You ring," and then he would just
Yeah.
be like, he would just do like one word at a time right after that, like what do you call it?
Monosyllabic.
Syllabic.
Yeah, monosyllabic.
Yeah. Y'all are all right.
But he's not the only Lurch to be in Star Trek. You also have the '90s Lurch played Mr. Home, Luoxana's manservant
Oh, yeah.
in TNG. So who's the Lurch on the new the Netflix Wednesday Addams show? We need to get him in Star Trek.
I have no. This is where I admit have not watched Wednesday, so I have no idea. Honestly, if he's even in it, because I think they barely show the rest of the family.
Oh, he's in it.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I'm like 99% sure. I should know. I only watched the first and last episode of that show, but I feel like I understand the entire arc of the season.
That's fair.
But
I just saw it on like GIFs on Twitter, and I think I understand it pretty well.
someone in the live audience will let us know, I think. Commodore Trev says Trek is full of lurches. But while Real Kirk is playing with stalactites and fighting Ruck, Android Kirk, he's on his mission to the Enterprise. Basically, Korby wants to get his equipment on board the Enterprise, continue on the Enterprise's route, not to draw any attention to them, but go to their next destination and start converting people into androids as soon as they get there. So Android Kirk is on the Enterprise trying to make arrangements to get all this equipment on board. And this is when he encounters Spock, and when they were doing the spinneroonie thing on the turntable to create the android, Kirk was doing that weird thing where he kept repeating, "Mind your own business, Mr. Spock. I'm sick of your half-breed interference. Do you hear?" And he like implanted that into Android Kirk. So as soon as Android Kirk sees Spock and starts having a conversation with him, he lets out a "Mind your own business, Mr. Spock. I'm sick of your half-breed interference. Do you hear?"
Again, wild move to be like, I hope Spock understands I'm not actually racist.
It's a weird thing to come up with. It's a weird thing to just like, oh, here's an idea that I'm just going to assume will work. This is like a weird, just like shot in the dark to take. I kind of wish they did something like a little bit better there, like some type of like code word or something. But I don't know. Like they with the original series, they wanted to present Kirk as he's kind of like Odysseus. He's kind of like the trickster. You know, he can manipulate. He can
Yeah.
which you know Cisco is also very good at with our Starfleet captains. But yeah, that just seems like a little too convenient.
I think that this was probably the instance, because at the end they do talk about this again, where they do come up with a security word or something. So like maybe this is the first time that they've been like, yeah, sorry, that was racist and horrible, but it was the only thing I could think up on the fly, like, you know.
Because then
I guess I will say, even if they do have a security word, I guess
they
the robot him would know it.
Right. So it'd have to be something original. But like in Whom Gods Destroy, they have the Queen to Queen's Level 3 or whatever type of code phrase that Garth of Izar didn't know. But you know, we also learn in Star Trek Discovery that when Michael Burnham, as a teenager, was trying to push little kid Spock away from her to protect him, when she was being attacked by a Vulcan extremist that were racist against a human being raised on Vulcan, and she wanted her little brother to stop following her around like a little puppy dog, and like to like drive him away, she calls him like a little half breed. So that word like really like I guess you know cut deep on Spock. When we see him in season 2 of Disco, he was like he was still so like angry at his sister for saying that to him. So it's like, damn, Kirk, did you really have to, you know, go with such like a personal insult there?
To be fair, unclear whether he would know about that, because I don't think Kirk knows about Michael Burnham.
Yeah, for real.
He might have been one of the people who Spock would have actually told about his sister, but I don't know about like this point in season 1. I don't know if they're at that. No, he had to have told her at some point though.
Yeah,
right? Like
later tells that story. He's like, "Ooh, I should not have said that." Like earlier.
And it's interesting that Dr. McCoy isn't in this episode. Because we know how McCoy, sometimes he talks to Spock is also
McCoy's not here, so Kirk has to take up the slack.
Yeah,
being mean to Spock.
But yeah, that's also just like a term that I guess people used to say like more casually, but it's pretty gross to say these days. I guess it probably always was, but
yeah. How about we don't?
Let's unnormalize that.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on Android Kirk on the Enterprise?
I think it's interesting. Like it's when he first gets back, he goes like, "It felt like home," and it's like, no, that's not your home. You've never been there before.
But Taylor, you point out how Spock, you know, he picks up on it when there's something, you know, off with Kirk. Spock definitely realizes, because he tells the security team to after the captain beams back down, y'all get ready to follow me down, because there's something weird going on in these caves.
Yeah, he's worried about his husband. He knows something's up.
So we get our big climax and some android on android violence. While fake Kirk was on his mission, real Kirk is trying to seduce Andrea. So two things that Kirk is known for is trying to seduce the woman opponent. And also trying to confound the computer. He's kind of doing both here when he's. So okay, this is my take on it. Like, Andrea had to have been like a sex robot designed for Korby. Like, she's like programmed for like intimacy. That's what she's for. And Kirk is like, I'm gonna be like so sexy to this robot that it's just gonna fry her programming, because it's like that's the only language that she speaks. That's the only way to deal with her when he's like kissing the android. And I guess the robot is into it.
Apparently confused that she's into it, because she's like, "You are not Korby."
Yeah, you're not who I was programmed for. And then when Ruck comes in there and starts beating up Kirk, it's like I love that like Ruck like hates Kirk so much. Like it's played so well with like that hate in his eyes every time he looks at Kirk. And this guy, this android just hates organic beings, and maybe he's even like disgusted by like the idea of like a human like kissing a fellow android. Like maybe he's
not
like
allowed
racist against humans. Yeah. But this is maybe my favorite scene in the episode is when Ruck confronts Kirk, and Kirk weaponizes that hatred against the organics. He kind of like turns that against Ruck when he, this is more like that trickster Kirk when he's trying to get him to lean into those bigotries because he knows like, oh, that's what's gonna get like this guy's that's how like this guy's programming. This is what he's designed to focus on. And Ruck says he has like that line to maintain your existence would be illogical. So he wants to like kill Kirk. He wants to like maybe kill all organic beings because we learned that the old ones who built these androids in the caves of XO3 eventually they began to fear their creations and shut them down. So the Ruck and the other androids wiped them all out. And I don't. The idea of like an insane computer is something that I've always been kind of fascinated by in stories and stuff. But yeah, like this old android, like it's like he struggles to even like pull up the files to like the like the memories in his computer brain. And
because it's been so long. He was like, oh right, we did kill them. We can do that.
And then like his like excitement when he starts thinking about all of that, he's just like, yes, like that was the equation. Existence, survival must cancel out programming. And when he went against his programming and killed his creators. So I love like Kirk kind of manipulating Ruck and getting him to turn on Korby.
It's definitely, it's funny because my brain is now thinking more about Westworld. Just in general now, it's like they turn on the humans kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's a story that a lot of people have told in science fiction, but it may be perhaps more relevant now. But the idea of like artificial intelligence and building something so advanced that it will become a danger to you.
I know, as I'm watching like people I know be like, I did this thing because ChatGPT told me it was right, and I was like, maybe don't do that. Like.
Yeah, I enjoy like having like certainty and like having someone else do like all the hard work and figure out the answers for you. But yeah, maybe don't trust the AI is not quite there. And even if it was, I still don't think you should make your decisions that way.
God, though the amount of people that are like college students that are like, I wrote this with like. I wrote this research paper using ChatGPT. I was like, so you cheated. That's not what your college education's for.
And it's so annoying just to go on like an AI tangent, but like you can't even like Google stuff anymore and get a straightforward answer because it always like populates the AI answer, and a lot of times those are wrong. It's inaccurate.
Oh yeah. There was like one I was like I can't remember now. I like Googled an actor with Star Trek to be like, I don't think they were ever on Star Trek, but I'm gonna Google it. And then AI was like, here's what you could be. I was like, no, get out. Like, you're gonna just try and tell me they were on Star Trek even if they weren't.
Yeah, I mean, like we really don't have like AI yet. We have like that type of stuff, like the interactive stuff, like ChatGPT. It's just more kind of like just like generating responses based on what it sees on the internet,
based off stealing other people's work.
Right. But I guess like the real problem with AI right now is using it in ways that are like eliminating people's jobs and stuff, and that's frightening. But also when like people are using it for shortcuts like that, like you were talking about like college students, but also like there's been several government officials, like when the president came out with his tariff plan, or like when RFK, the head of Human Health and Services, is putting out reports, and it's like, oh, there's a lot of inaccurate information in these things that looks like it. Experts are like, this looks like it was generated by AI. So it's like, like we don't even have like the AI at the level where it can like do the work correctly, and we're already starting to like depend on it. So.
so bad.
And maybe even Ruck is kind of a good analog for that today, because we see his programming's not all there either. And maybe it never was. I assume he's just really old, and that's why he's unstable. But maybe the old ones who built these androids, maybe they got a little overzealous and were like,
he killed them all a while ago, so I don't think he was ever all there.
They were rolling out this technology before it was ready, so it was like they were switching to the AI before it was developed enough, and it bit them in the ass. Perhaps is one way to read it today. But Kirk successfully stirs up Ruck. Korby comes in and puts them down, and this is kind of like Kirby's downfall. He I keep calling him Korby. But Korby gets his he destroys Ruck, and after this he's lost his security android, so it's kind of like the beginning of the end for him. He gets his hand exposed. You see the circuitry under his fake rubber skin, which is kind of a creepy idea. It's something that like Terminator does and stuff. You see Arnold Schwarzenegger's like robot parts under his skin.
Even the first time I watched this, I found that so creepy, even though at this point I was like, he's definitely an android. I was like, oh no, I don't want to see it.
Yeah. I think thank you. Also, like, him killing Ruck was such a oh, he's definitely an android, because Ruck was like angry that Korby had brought evil/inferior ones to this place. So it's like, oh, so there's no evil inferior ones. There's no human organic people then. Like, if Ruck is mad at Korby for bringing these ones here, that means that Korby can't be one. And then for Korby to kill Ruck immediately because he's afraid that his secret might get out is what I kind of read that as too. Not just Ruck being a challenge and scary or whatever, but also because he might tattle on Korby's androidness. But then for him to literally turn around and get his hand caught in the door, it's such a quick tragedy fall, where it's oh, he almost made it out, but then he got his hand stuck in the door, and now you can really tell that he's an android. So he's literally he's so close.
Damn, that was some really bad timing. But yeah,
sacrificed Ruck and then peeled his hand off.
Because then he kind of loses any chance of Chapel still being on his side. And when Korby's trying to deal with Kirk and Chapel alone at phaser point, he calls Andrea and says, get a weapon and come in here and help. And she's not programmed for security, so she grabs a weapon. She sees Robo Kirk, Android Kirk, and because real Kirk, I guess, stirred up her program, her love programming, we'll call it. And she sees the android Kirk and is like, kiss me. This always cracked me up as a kid, but she's like, kiss me, and he's like, it is illogical. And the way Shatner plays that kind of dismissive, it is illogical. It kind of does this little hand gesture, and then immediately is disintegrated. It's just, I don't know. As a kid, that made me laugh my ass off, just seeing we have the scary android, and then we have the woman tells the man, kiss me, he says it is illogical, and then zap, he's just fried. Just it made me laugh.
I think also this shows the limits of technology, that it can't be a full human being, because it can't she can't actually love anything or protect anything, because she's so limited in what she can do.
Yeah, then when she comes to Korby and sees oh, here's the real Kirk. I killed the Kirk that was on our side, and she even says oh yeah, I wasn't programmed for this, so
this is on you.
Yeah, I was just trying to follow orders, but I don't know what I'm doing. But it's actually Korby himself who, I guess, eventually sees the error of his ways when he begins to realize oh, I actually instead of becoming the super being with who could live without fear or hunger or pain or any of these human weaknesses, I've actually also lost a lot of my humanity and my I guess he doesn't have full this full spectrum of human emotions. It's still just kind of a limited what would you call that, imitation, an imitation of it.
Yeah.
But like he eventually comes to this point where he realizes I'm not Dr. Korby. The real Korby died, and I'm just this failed experiment left behind. And when Andrea is it's creepy. She's it's like her programming is breaking down. She's like, kiss me. Like that's the only thing she knows to do. It's just like to be like a literal what would you call it? Like a she's basically just like a fully functional sex toy, and she's just like kiss me, and then he pulls the trigger on her phaser and disintegrates them. It is a bit tragic. You're kind of I don't know if it's Korby that I'm sad for, but I'm definitely sad when I see like Chapel's reaction to this, watching like the last.
Yeah. I know.
There's an earlier line in this episode where Andrea refers to Dr. Korby as Roger, and he tells her to stop calling him Roger
Yeah.
because it disturbs Chapel. He says it's sufficient that it does disturb her. And I think like in this scene at the end when he's revealed to be an android to her and it disturbs her so much, and she says like, you've proven that this isn't you, like over and over now or whatever. And so I think that is kind of where he realizes that he's disturbed her. And like, but
it's like a last moment of whatever love the original Korby felt for her.
Yeah. I felt like that line kind of is reflected in his actions here. He's like, man, like if this one person who I care for, like can't even love me. And that's exactly what Andrea is doing, right? Is like, kiss me, love me. And if he's doing that to Chapel and he's seeing himself in Andrea, and he's like, oh, this is not.
Yeah, because he's saying to Andrea, like, you can't love. And then I think in his head, he's like, oh, I can't love.
I can't love.
Right,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you're not really loving me. You're just programmed to act like you're loving me. And then he's like, yeah, like that's the same thing I'm doing to Christine. Yeah. And I mean, like it's basically you can look at it as like, it's basically like this guy realizes like I've permanently like burnt the bridge between me and my love, and I'm just gonna commit suicide now. It's like that. It's almost like Shakespearean in the tragedy. It's like Romeo Juliet type stuff almost.
Oh, definitely. And maybe it's like a little bit like I'm releasing Christine from this like obligation of like because she's been waiting for 5 years. I feel like in most things, if he hadn't been found for 5 years, she was like, I assume he's dead. Everyone would be like, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Like,
hold on, hope. So.
Yeah, this is kind of the last time that we'll get to watch this episode without the new context that Strange New Worlds will bring into it. So I'm definitely curious how all of these scenes will play after we learn whatever we're gonna learn.
I mean, it would have to be like it's not going to be something where she was just like, we have fun, so we're gonna get I can like spend some time with this guy. I was like, she has to be in love with him enough to like change the trajectory of her life to go look for him.
Yeah. That's true. I assume that. So this is a fun thing to talk about. This is actually something that Jill in our live audience was mentioning in the Tex-Trek Discord. So people should join the Discord server. By the way, there's a link wherever you're watching or listening to this, and But something that she's pointing out is depending on what year Strange New World Season 3 takes place in, there might be, we might actually see, Korby go on this expedition with only 5 years between that and this. So, like, yeah, she's going to go from, like, meeting him to, like, getting engaged and then, like, him running off.
Sounds like it.
Like... Yeah, that's what I kind of assume will happen, which is like, that's a lot, guys. To be a very whirlwind romance.
But we will find out soon. So then we have like our ending. Spock comes in. He does this. I think kind of doesn't work. Like Spock should be like a little bit more concerned for Chapel based on everything we know about them. But he seems like so much more concerned about Kirk. Like he's just like nurse, and then he's like, Captain, are you okay?
Yeah. Especially after they're like, Dr. Korby was never actually here. He should be like, oh my God, Christine. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm more of a logical, but at least be like, oh, that's not great.
And then back on the ship, Chapel decides to stay in Starfleet, stay on board the Enterprise, which is cool. Like, this is only the second episode that Chapel was in, so It's, I guess, not a shock that Gene Roddenberry's girlfriend was going to become a recurring character. I should point out that originally Robert Bloch's script did not involve Nurse Chapel. It had like the fiance was going to be a new character who was like a rich lady who hires the Enterprise to go look for her fiance, Roger Korby. So it makes sense why Roddenberry changed it to be Chapel, but also makes sense to be like, I'm going to make it my girlfriend so that she gets a job on the show again. So
it also it does make you care more if it's this like an established character. I guess he's only been established by one episode at this point, but like, and if it's a character you know the other characters care about, like you end up caring more.
Yeah.
As opposed to like they like hired this lady, this lady hired them, and be like, okay, that's a lot of money.
And we also get the I guess there's a little conversation at the end between Spock and Kirk about how half-breed is an unsophisticated term, and steady as we go, Helm, off to the next adventure.
They're like, just to clarify, it wasn't cool that he was racist to me. I guess we can leave now.
Any other thoughts on what our little girl is made of before I go into the Gornig section of the show?
I think I covered most of them.
Okay, well, that brings us to the Gorn eggs then, or the Easter eggs, in jokes, and continuity connections that we like to talk about. So I'll just run through these real quick, but starting off, Roger Korby, we learned that one of his great scientific contributions is his translations of the Orion medical records. There's the line, his translation of medical records from the Orion ruins revolutionized our immunization techniques. But they referenced this in Lower Decks. If y'all recall, in that last season of Lower Decks, they have the old Orion ship, and it was a medical ship. So the ancient Orions used to have really advanced medical technology. So that was a kind of a cool deep cut to this episode.
That is a deep cut. I did not notice that during that episode.
Yeah, it's like modern Orions are pirates. The ancient Orions were like good at medicine. So I don't know if I got this idea because like they did it in like the Star Trek novels or something, but I'm under the impression that the Orions used to have a vast, advanced empire in space, and then over the centuries it kind of fell apart, and now they've like turned to lives of crime and such.
Yeah, they're like, we can't be in charge, then piracy.
Yeah, that's very Orion.
Yeah.
This episode also is the first ever mention of Sam Kirk. George Samuel Kirk, or we get the line, only you call him Sam, which is fun because we know in Strange New Worlds, everyone calls him Sam. And I love how Strange New Worlds dealt with this in the episode Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, where we have Kirk and La'an in the car together. And, she learns his middle name is Tiberius. And she's like, what the hell kind of a middle name is Tiberius? Are you going to tell me, like, Sam's middle name? Is Sam's name, like, Sam, Julius Augustus, whatever, Kirk? Yeah. And then Kirk says, no, Sam is his middle name. Only I call him Sam. And La'an says, everyone calls him Sam. So that ties together so perfectly with this. It's interesting to me that like the people who make Strange New Worlds, they care so much about the details that they care so much about, like that.
Yeah. I've always assumed that he called him Sam, and when they went to school, everyone started calling him Sam, but in his head, he was like, no, I called him Sam first.
And it also makes sense with the Kelvin movies, because, we learn here that Sam's full name is George Samuel Kirk, but he's called Sam. And then when we find Chris Hemsworth's character in Star Trek 09 as their dad, he is George Kirk. So Sam is actually George Jr. And yeah, it's pretty common with juniors. It's like, it's going to be confusing if their mom says George, you're talking to your husband or talking to your kid. So it's like husband is George, kid is Sam.
No, my dad is a junior, and it was like, so he had to be Eddie instead of Ed. And like still like people like when my grandfather was still alive, people would be like Ed, and they'd both be like, what? Like, and I'd be like, this is confusing.
Taylor, what about like your dad and grandpa are both Joe, so what's the
Yeah. I think they just called my dad Little Joe.
God, I know I've like told this story for the family I stayed with during the snowpocalypse. There were 4 men there. 3 of them were named Daniel, because one's the son of the other. And my friend married a man named Daniel, and I was just like, there are too many people with this name here. You've got to start going. Some of you have got to start going by something else.
Yeah,
Like,
one of you is Dan, one of you
Yeah.
is Danny, and one of you is Daniel.
We did that at work one time. We had 4 Daniels, and we had different renditions for each of them. One was Danny, one was Dan, one was Daniel, and the other went by his middle name.
Well, there's that.
This is
there's
a Voyager, the Roberts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
Like-
meeting of the Roberts.
Yeah.
Where like the first day of shooting on Star Trek Voyager, the joke is that Picardo got Beltran and McNeil together, and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to be Bob, you're going to be Robert, and you're going to be Robbie."
Yeah. Like, see, I'd heard the joke that he's Bob because he got there. That was the only thing left because it was the last of the film. And I have no idea which version of that is true.
I think it was like Beltran, like he didn't want anyone to call him like Bob or Robbie.
Yeah.
He's like, "No, my name is Robert. You have to say the full thing."
And the other 2 were like, okay.
I want my burrito.
Yeah. I don't want McDonald's. I want a burrito from the truck. If you haven't seen the Voyager documentary yet, when you see it, you'll get that reference.
We use that way too often for it to be normal.
Taylor and
like,
I say that in our house all the time.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, it's like when one of us are being stuck up, I'm like, I want my burrito.
Yeah,
my favorite thing is like inside jokes that come from something so specific. And you're like, it's from this Star Trek thing, but this very specific Star Trek thing.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing in the live audience, speaking of Sam Kirk, is Jill is pointing out Peter Kirk. That's the son that we meet in Operation Annihilate. He should already be alive at this time. So that's an interesting thing. In Strange New Worlds, Sam Kirk might have a wife and 3 kids already that we just never hear about. Or I think another possibility is that just eventually Sam will marry a woman with 3 kids and kind of adopt them, and those are his boys that because they mentioned that here in this episode too. Is that oh yeah, Kirk, your brother Sam, he has a wife and 3 kids. So
either way, I could see him adopting or it just being like, oh yeah, he has a wife and kids. They just didn't bring him on this ship. Because, like, the D is the only time we see them bringing families on, right?
Right. Like, his family wouldn't live on the Enterprise with them.
And, like, maybe it's, like, because I grew up in, like, military situations. To me, I was like, it's fairly normal for people in the military to go spend large chunks of time away from their families.
Yeah.
Especially if they're on, like, something like a ship or, like, a submarine.
Also, in the Gorn Eggs, I want to point out Bud Albright, who played Matthews, or was it Rayburn? Who was the one by the cave entrance? Taylor, do you remember?
Matthews fell down the pit, and Rayburn was at the entrance. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong.
Bud Albright played Matthews. Just in case I'm wrong, you're wrong. I'll say it. Bud Albright played Rayburn. That way in the podcast I'll edit the correct one. See, the YouTube audience sees the real me. The podcast audience is like, oh, this guy like always knows what he's talking about. But Bud Albright dies in this episode. He also died in Star Trek earlier in The Man Trap. He was in the hazard vest and got the salt drained out of him by the salt sucker. But that character was had a different name. I forgot it.
A double red shirt, if you will. I know he's not wearing red here, but he's serving the purpose of a red shirt.
Yeah.
But I mean, you also had Darnell in a blue shirt die in the opening of that episode. So the red shirts weren't always in a red shirt, but
yeah.
And this episode also uses the laser pistol prop from The Cage. They called them laser pistols instead of phasers in that episode. And then they had the same prop in Where No Man Has Gone Before. And then, of course, we saw it in the menagerie in the stock footage they used. But speaking of the Man Trap, it also shows up in the Man Trap. Professor Crater also had that and I think it's cool. It's like, oh, those are just like older than the standard phasers they use in Starfleet on the Enterprise. And the phasers in Disco Seasons 1 and 2 and Strange New Worlds are kind of like a hybrid between this prop and the standard TOS Type 2 phaser. So I appreciate all that attention to detail. And the last one I'm going to bring up, a small one, but some of the stock footage of ice fields that we see in this episode was again reused in all our yesterdays in Mr. Atos's library. We see that when it's showing the different footage on that on the screen to the portal to transport people back in time. They have some of that same ice footage. So, but that's all I got on Gornegs. But y'all should have a good idea how we feel about this episode. You heard our thoughts on it for over an hour, so please comment and let us know your thoughts, your feelings on what our little girl's made of. We might share it in the future in our subspace transmissions. I just wanted to point out now some subspace transmissions we recently received. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do. But on YouTube, we just did a live stream breaking down the latest trailer to Strange New World Season 3 and reacting to it. It was me, Rachel, Joel, and Aaron. So check that out. But we got some interesting comments from one of our regular viewers, opinions no one cares about, that I thought this would be fun stuff to share going into the new season of Strange New Worlds. But Opinion says, I think the finale, and you're talking about Strange New Worlds here, I think the finale is going to end up being Pike finally accepting his destiny, getting irradiated and beep chair. I don't remember exactly how close we are to TOS, but we're getting there. So yeah, I think this new season, looks like they're having a Federation Centennial, so that would put it in the year 2261. So we're just 5 years away from when he's going to be in the beeping chair. But we might actually see those events in the show. And Opinions also talks about, we know that the episode of Strange New Worlds that Jonathan Frakes directed this year, the Hollywood Murder Mystery, episode 304. Frakes said it's the best work he's done for Strange New Worlds, which is saying something considering he directed Those Old Scientists last season. I thought that was a great point. Yeah,
that's true.
Those Old Scientists is a pretty damn good episode of Star Trek. So, and we have those episode titles for season 3. We know that the second episode is called Wedding Bell Blues. Opinion says, I feel like Wedding Bell Blues is going to be where Spock and T'Pring are officially Vulcan married, or whatever it is that leads to him to call her my wife in Amok Time. There's this line in Amok Time that says, we're more than engaged. He's like, she's more than a fiance, but less than my wife, or something like that. So maybe we'll have that established in season 3. Currently, Spock and T'Pring, their engagement is off, but at some point between then and Amok Time, it'll get back on track. So I assume that'll be a season 3 thing. And lastly, from Opinions, he says, wait, if that's Kirk on the Farragut, possibly in command, how long is this after the whole thing about Captain Garavik and the vampire cloud? So what he's talking about there is, in the trailer, we do see Paul Wesley in the captain's chair. We assume that's on the Farragut. He's getting to command the Farragut, the ship he's first officer on, as established in season 2. We know that he served on the Farragut from the original series episode Obsession in season 2. There is that cloud that attacked the. Sounds kind of stupid to say you were attacked by a cloud, but it happens in Star Trek more often than you'd think. But yeah, Captain Garavik was in command, and there's this cloud that's killing crew members of the Farragut, and that would have already happened. That was in 2257, because it was, I believe, 11 years earlier than the episode Obsession. So that would have happened around season 1 of Disco. While that was going on, a young Kirk was dealing with the vampire cloud on a mission. On the USS
describing
Farragut.
episodes of Star Trek can feel so silly sometimes.
Indeed. But that's part of why I love it. I love the bonkersness of Star
Oh,
Trek. I love
I
how
do
weird it can
too.
get.
We've talked about how one of my favorite episodes of TNG is the Royale, and I was like, no, it's very silly. That's part of the appeal.
Yeah, and we all have those weird. Eventually, we're going to have to do a back-trekking retrospective on Move Along Home because
Oh yeah,
we all three of us like that one, right?
yeah. I think it's fun. Like,
It is fun. Also, a lot of people at Trek Long Island wanted to hear that one, so
Yeah, that was fun. We took requests from people in person at Trek Long Island. So if y'all ever see Miss Taylor and I at a Star Trek convention somewhere, let us know. Like, I have a great episode for you to cover as a backtracking retrospective. Because there's like 900 freaking episodes of Star Trek. There's a lot more for us to do.
oh, there's so much more.
You know what I also think will be fun is eventually, like when Discovery and Strange New Worlds and all like the new shows, like when they're kind of
Old enough.
They're old. It's like, oh, let's go back and revisit them. Like so much of this stuff. It's like, oh, we're watching this, 50, 60 years later, and we kind of have to like recontextualize it. Like that's gonna be fun when we can do that too. I experienced that now with like. There's a lot of 90s Star Trek that I watched as it was coming out, so I kind of am already getting that experience now. So I'm looking forward to doing that more in the future.
With Trek, because Discovery was the first Trek I watched live, but with like shows, like currently I threw on an episode of Psych, and I was like, oh yeah, I watched this live, and now my relationship with this episode is so different than it was when I was like literally a child watching it. So it'd be interesting, like my different perspectives on the stuff that came out live as like I get older.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really looking forward to covering the new season of Strange New Worlds with Taylor because it'll be her first time watching a season of Star Trek as it is coming out at like the same time as everyone else. So
You'll have to wait with all of us. It'll like next one.
You'll get to be part of the conversation as it's happening. But we should announce the episode that we're covering next week. We're going to have another backtracking retrospective. Taylor, do you remember what episode it is?
No. It's a surprise for me, too. I have it on a list somewhere, but it's not in front of me.
Well, it's going to be with our friend Joel is going to be on board.
Yeah, then I know the episode.
Well, it looks like that Rhys Darby, the actor, we know he's going to be in Strange New World Season 3. The trailers have implied that, or at least with the costuming choices, have made it look like he might be playing Trelane, the character from Squire of Gothos. So it's a great time for us to revisit Squire of Gothos. So, Joel will be joining us next week for that. But I'm looking forward to that. That's a fun episode, and I am really excited to see Trelane in Strange New Worlds, assuming that is Trelane. They've never confirmed that as far as I know, but everyone seems extremely confident, so I'm assuming that
if he's not, I feel very silly at this point.
Yeah, I feel silly because it'll be like, why did y'all cover that, in the build up to Strange New Worlds Season 3? That had nothing to do with Strange New Worlds, but I also think it's a fun episode, though.
Well, because they also, when they said he'll be playing a familiar character.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
who else in Star Trek who would be alive in the 23rd century dresses like that? I mean, come on, it's got to be Trelane.
Trelane or someone related to Trelane.
Oh, yeah. He could be like Trelane's parents, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think it's the real deal. I think it's Trelane. So, looking forward to discussing Squire of Gothos with Joel next week. And we'll do some more backtracking retrospectives after that. Eventually, we'll do like a show on the things we want and don't want in the season. And then we'll be covering the 10 episodes of Strange New Worlds weekly as they come out. So, really looking forward to the next couple of months. But until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Subscribe to YouTube to watch the Tex-Trek podcast live or listen to us later on your favorite podcast platform. Follow Stephen Fothery on socials at TXTrek. Thank you and take care.